The gavel slammed like a thunderclap, silencing the courtroom. Two black teenagers, twins, sat shackled, their eyes burning with a mix of defiance and despair as the judge's voice echoed, "Death." The crowd gasped, a mother's wail piercing the air, but the twins, Jamal and Jalen Carter, didn't flinch. He'd learned long ago not to expect mercy from a system that saw their skin before their souls. This wasn't just a trial, it was a war. A war that began 6 months earlier on a sweltering summer night in Oak Ridge, a city fractured by poverty and prejudice. The twins, barely 17, were accused of murdering a white store clerk during a robbery gone wrong. The evidence? A blurry security tape, a coerced witness, and a town ready to crucify them. The truth? Far murkier, buried under layers of systemic rot and rage. Oak Ridge was a tinderbox. On one side, white residents clutched their pearls, demanding justice for the slain clerk, a father of 3. On the other, black communities marched, their signs screaming, "No justice, no peace," knowing the system had already judged the twins guilty the moment they were born black. The media fanned the flames, splashing headlines that painted Jamal and Jalen as monsters, their mugshots plastered everywhere while the clerk's smiling family photos tugged at heartstrings. Jamal, the elder by 3 minutes, was the firebrand. He'd always been the protector, quick to speak, quicker to fight. Jalen was quieter, the thinker, his eyes always searching for a way out. They'd grown up in a neighborhood where hope was a luxury, raised by a single mother, Aisha, who worked 2 jobs to keep them fed. Their father? Gone before they could walk. The streets were their education, and survival was their degree. But they weren't killers, not by choice. The night of the crime, they'd been at the wrong place, wrong time. The corner store, a dingy spot run by Mr. Hargrove, was a regular stop for them. That night, a masked man burst in, gun raised, demanding cash. The twins dove for cover as shots rang out. Hargrove fell, blood pooling. The robber fled, leaving a stolen hoodie with Jamal's name scrawled in's idea plant. They swore, but no one listened. By morning, they were in cuffs, the town baying for blood. The trial was a circus. The prosecutor, a slick man named Whitaker, spun a tale of cold-blooded killers, waving the hoodie like a trophy. The defense, a weary public defender named Ms. Clara Evans, fought hard but was outgunned. Witnesses crumbled under pressure. One, a nervous kid named Tyrell, swore he saw Jamal pull the trigger, his eyes darting to the cops behind him. Clara smelled coercion but couldn't prove it. The jury, mostly white, didn't need convincing. The twins were guilty before the opening statements. As the death sentence landed, Aisha collapsed, her sobs drowned by the courtroom's chaos. Jamal locked eyes with Jalen, a silent vow, they wouldn't break. But outside, Oak Ridge was fracturing. Protests erupted, tires burned, and police in riot gear clashed with marchers. Reverend Marcus Tate, a local pastor and community pillar, stood on a makeshift stage, pleading for calm. "This ain't justice," he roared. "This is vengeance dressed in robes." His words lit a spark, but the city was already a powder keg. Clara wasn't done. She'd seen too many boys like the twins chewed up by the system. Digging through case files at 3 a.m., fueled by coffee and fury, she found a lead, a payphone record from the night of the crime, a call placed near the store to an unlisted number. It was a long shot, but she tracked it to a burner phone tied to a lowlife named Rico, a known snitch who'd vanished after the shooting. Clara's gut screamed setup. She took it to Marcus, who'd become the twins' loudest advocate. Together, they hunted Rico down, finding him holed up in a motel across state lines. Under pressure, Rico cracked, admitting he'd been paid to plant the hoodie and point the finger. By who? He wouldn't say, but his fear pointed higher cops, maybe even someone in the DA's office. Clara recorded every word, her hands shaking. This was the break they needed. Back in Oak Ridge, the twins sat in separate cells, the weight of death row crushing them. Jamal scratched lyrics into the wall, his anger bleeding into poetry. Jalen read their mother's letters, her faith in them the only light in the dark. They didn't know Clara was racing against time, her evidence now a ticking bomb. She took Rico's confession to a judge, not the one who'd sentenced the twins, but a higher court, one with less local bias. The judge, a stern woman named Harper, agreed to hear the case. The hearing was electric. Whitaker fought dirty, accusing Clara of fabricating evidence. Marcus rallied the community, packing the courtroom with supporters, their presence a silent scream for justice. Aisha sat in the front row, clutching a photo of her boys at age 10, gap-toothed and grinning. The twins were brought in, chains clanking, their faces unreadable but their eyes alive with hope they didn't dare voice. Harper listened as Clara laid out the case, the planted hoodie, the coerced witness, the payphone call. Rico, sweating under oath, spilled more details, implicating a rogue cop named Officer Brandt, who'd been seen near the store that night. Gasps rippled through the room. Brandt, in the back, went pale. Whitaker's smirk faltered. The crowd outside chanted, their voices seeping through the walls, a drumbeat of rage and righteousness. Harper called a recess, her face unreadable. Clara, Marcus, and Aisha huddled, praying this wasn't another false dawn. The twins sat in their holding cell, whispering about what freedom might feel like. Jamal admitted he was scared not of death, but of letting Jalen down. Jalen, ever the optimist, said, "We're getting out, bro. I feel it." When court resumed, Harper delivered her ruling, the twins' convictions were overturned, pending a new trial. The courtroom erupted cheers, tears, fists raised. Aisha ran to her boys, hugging them through the bars. But the fight wasn't over. Brandt was arrested, and whispers of corruption spread, shaking Oak Ridge's power structure. The twins were free, but the system that nearly killed them still stood. That night, Marcus organized a vigil, not for victory, but for change. Thousands gathered, black and white, young and old, holding candles that flickered like stars. Jamal and Jalen stood with their mother, their scars invisible but deep. Clara spoke, her voice raw, "This isn't just about two boys. It's about a system that judges color over character. We won today, but tomorrow, we rebuild." The twins' story spread, a spark igniting conversations nationwide. Protests grew, not just for them, but for every name lost to the same machine. The phone call Clara found hadn't just saved two lives, it had cracked open a door to justice, one that wouldn't close easily. The twins' release was no fairy tale ending. Freedom tasted bittersweet, like rain after a drought, refreshing, but not enough to heal the cracked earth. Jamal and Jalen stepped out of the county jail into a world that had already branded them. The air was thick with the scent of burning rubber from distant protests, and the crowd waiting outside was a sea of contradictions, some cheering, some hurling slurs, others just staring, unsure if justice had won or chaos had. Aisha clung to her boys, her hands trembling as she shielded them from the flashing cameras. "You're home," she whispered, but her eyes betrayed her fear this wasn't over. Oak Ridge was a city at war with itself. The twins' overturned convictions had exposed a nerve, and the backlash was swift. Officer Brandt's arrest sent shockwaves through the police department. Whispers of a cover-up grew louder, implicating not just Brandt but higher-ups who'd turned a blind eye. The DA's office, led by Whitaker, scrambled to save face, issuing statements about isolated incidents, while quietly distancing themselves from the scandal. But the community wasn't buying it. Reverend Marcus Tate, now a reluctant figurehead, stood on street corners, megaphone in hand, demanding a reckoning. "We didn't just free two boys," he told the crowds. "We cracked the system's mask. Now we tear it off." Jamal and Jalen, though free, were not whole. Nights were haunted by the clang of cell doors in their dreams. Jamal's anger simmered, his fists itching to lash out at a world that had tried to erase him. Jalen, ever the dreamer, buried himself in books, trying to make sense of a future he'd never planned for. Aisha watched them struggle, her heart breaking anew. She'd fought for their lives, but now she fought for their spirits. "You're more than what they called you," she'd say, her voice fierce. But the twins saw the pity in strangers' eyes, the whispers that followed them like shadows. Clara Evans, their lawyer, became their anchor. She'd taken their case pro bono, but it had cost her sleepless nights, hate mail, even threats. Still, she pressed on, filing motions for a new trial while digging deeper into the corruption that had framed the twins. Rico's confession had been the key, but it was only the beginning. She uncovered a pattern: young black men targeted, evidence tampered, witnesses coerced. Brant wasn't a lone wolf, he was part of a pack. Clara shared her findings with Marcus, who turned them into fuel for the movement. "This ain't just about Jamal Ascension Parish," he said at a rally. "It's about every parish in America." The twins tried to rebuild. Jamal got a job at a local garage, his hands steady with a wrench but shaky with rage. Jalen enrolled in community college, his eyes always on the horizon, chasing a degree he couldn't yet name. Their mother insisted on therapy, but Jamal refused, calling it weak. Jalen went, silently, and found words for the pain he'd buried. The sessions helped, but the world outside was less forgiving. Social media was a battlefield. Some called them heroes, others criminals. A viral video of their release sparked debates that tore through the nation. "Killers walk free," one side screamed. "Innocent boys saved," the other countered. The twins read none of it, they'd learned the hard way that truth didn't matter to those who'd already judged. The new trial loomed, a specter. Clara warned them it wouldn't be easy. Whitaker, humiliated but unbowed, was pushing for a retrial, claiming new evidencia lie, Clara knew, but a dangerous one. The community rallied, raising funds for the twins' defense, but the system was relentless. Judge Harper, now overseeing the case, demanded transparency, forcing the DA to turn over records. Those records revealed more. Brant's unit had a history of planting evidence, targeting black neighborhoods. The news hit Oak Ridge like a bomb, and protests swelled. This time, they weren't just local. Cities across the country joined in, chanting the twins' names. Marcus organized a town hall, packing the community center with people from every corner of Oak Ridge. The twins sat in the front row, silent, as voices clashed. A white woman, tears in her eyes, spoke of her fear for her children in a lawless city. A black man, his voice shaking, recounted his own run-in with Brant years ago. Clara presented her evidence, her voice steady but her hands trembling with the weight of it. "This isn't one bad cop," she said. "It's a system built to break people like Jamal and Jalen." The room erupted, some cheering, others booing. Marcus stepped in, his presence calming the storm. "We don't heal by hating," he said. "We heal by facing the truth." The truth was ugly. Brant's unit had operated with impunity for years, backed by a network of complicit officials. The payphone call that saved the twins led to a paper trail: payments, orders, names. Clara and Marcus worked with a national civil rights group, exposing the rot. The FBI stepped in, and heads began to roll. Whitaker resigned, citing personal reasons, but the town knew better. The twins' case became a symbol, a rallying cry for reform. But reform was slow, and the twins felt the weight of being symbols. "I just want to be me," Jamal told Jalen one night, staring at the stars. Jalen nodded. "Me too." As the retrial approached, the twins found unexpected allies. Hargrove's widow, Mary, a quiet woman broken by loss, met with them. She'd believed the lies at first, but Clara's evidence changed her. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "I didn't know." Jamal couldn't look at her, but Jalen took her hand. "We didn't either," he said. The meeting, private and raw, was a turning point. Mary joined the movement, speaking out about the system's failures, her grief fueling her courage. The media, once vicious, began to shift. Editorials called for change, and the twins' faces became less monstrous, more human. The retrial was a battle, but Clara was ready. Armed with Rico's confession, Brandt's records, and a growing public outcry, she dismantled the prosecution's case. Tyrell, the coerced witness, recanted, admitting Brandt had threatened his family. The jury, this time more diverse, deliberated for hours. When the verdict came not guilty, the courtroom shook with cheers and sobs. Aisha fell to her knees, thanking a God she doubted. The twins hugged, their chains finally gone. But freedom wasn't peace. The twins returned to a changed Oak Ridge. New police reforms were in place, but trust was thin. Jamal started a youth program, teaching kids to channel anger into art. Jalen's college essays, raw and honest, earned him a scholarship. Aisha opened a small bakery, her boys' favorite pies always fresh. Clara, now a local hero, ran for DA, vowing to clean house. Marcus kept preaching, his sermons now broadcast online, reaching millions. The twins stood at the vigil a year later, candles in hand. The crowd was smaller but stronger, united by purpose. Jamal spoke, his voice rough but clear, "We're not your symbols. We're just us. But if our story makes you fight, then fight." Jalen added, "Justice ain't given. It's taken." Their words hung in the air, a challenge. The system was cracked, not broken, but the twins had lit a fire. Oak Ridge, and the world, would have to decide what to do with it. What do you believe? Does justice mean truth, or does it depend on who holds the gavel? Share your thoughts, and let's keep this fight alive.